Hey, what's up, family? How y'all doing today? So, we're doing something a little bit different today. We're going to be outside today. We're doing a little podcast, but we're going to be outside. I'm going to talk to you for a brief moment, right? We're here to talk about, what it means to be a follower of Christ and how to live that out. So, we want to be Christ-like in everything that we do, especially when it comes to dating, right? So, we're going to talk about that today. So, when we think about, dating as a Christian, what does that really mean? What does it mean to date someone with Christian principles, right? I think about that all the time, in the selection process, right? You selecting based on what you see, right? At the beginning in conversations, what they tell you. But in the process, you have to make sure you're looking at it through the lens of, the Bible, right? Through the lens of being a follower of Christ. And what I'm saying is that we have to apply kingdom principles to our selection process, right? And we think about, first of all, you have to think about it from a perspective of if you're going to, live every single day with purpose, you're doing everything on purpose, right? You can't just kind of wing it and just kind of, be in the spur of the moment and just do whatever. Because if you do it like that, then more likely you're going to mess up when you're just trying to go with the moment. But if you don't actually have direction, in this way, you don't have the direction from God, then you're just out there doing whatever and doing it any type of way, and that's not gonna work. You know what I'm saying? Because you just be out there just, like I said, making it up as you go along. No, you can't do that. So as a man, first I speak to the men. As a man, you need to look for a Proverbs 31 woman, right? That's what the Bible talks about. Proverbs 31 was written to a man, and it was somebody's mother telling him what type of woman he needed to be looking for, right? So in the process of that, she pretty much spells out every single detail and the characteristics of the type of person she should be, right? So as a Christian man, you should be looking for that. You should be reading Proverbs 31 and looking at the lady that you're talking to and see, does she match Proverbs 31, right? And if she does not match it, then no, she's not the one. You feel me? In the selection process, one of the things I tell men is, when you meet a young lady, does she have a bunch of attitude, right? And she always ready to fight and argue? If that's the case, you need to run away from her, because by Proverbs say it's better to live on the corner of a rooftop than to live with a brawling woman, right? So if she's brawling, ready to fight, and I'm gonna talk to the women in a second, but fellas, if she's brawling, ready to fight, that's not somebody you should link up with. That's somebody you should because the Bible tells you not to, right? Because if you ignore that and you get with a woman that likes to fight and argue, then you're going to live a life of a bunch of arguments. You're going to be like wondering why did I pick this one? Why does she always like to fight? Why does she always like to argue? And then you're going to mess yourself up. You don't want to be that guy, right? So use wisdom in your selection process. For the ladies, you also got to use wisdom as well. What type of man is he? Proverbs 31, again, if you look at Proverbs 31, there's some things in there that talks to men, actually, right? One of the things says that a man should not be a drunkard, right? So if a man that's not sober-minded means he don't got no self-control, he all over the place, that's not a man you should link up with, right? You need to tell that brother, nah, it ain't gonna work. We can't do it. And you need to leave that brother alone, because he obviously not the one. Another part of Proverbs 31, it speaks to the man has a good reputation with the people of his land, right? Is the man that you're trying to date, does he have a good reputation? Do people know him for good, right? Not do they know him for bad, because if he has a bad reputation, you might want to stay away from that person. Why? Because you will know people about the fruit that they bear. Based on what you see, the evidence in their life, based on the evidence in their life, you will see, is this the right person for me, right? Because if they're showing you a bunch of bad things, it's almost like you should believe it, right? If they show you who they are, believe them. You can't just ignore it. Because a lot of times, if we really like the person, if they're looking really good or whatever, we ignore the red flags. Why? Because they look so good. You just, you ignore the red flags. And that goes for both parties. Don't ignore the red flags just because you're feeling them. Yeah, they looking good. They cute. All of that. That's cool. But, don't put the cart before the horse. You know what I'm saying? Don't get caught up in that. Don't get, mesmerized by that. Make sure that you're always using kingdom principles when it comes to finding your significant other. I'm telling you right now, use wisdom, and make sure the person you're trying to talk to is walking with Christ for real. You feel me? Like, make sure they're walking with Christ for real. Like, if you dating somebody and they claim Christianity but they don't really follow Jesus, then that's not the person you need to link up with. That's not the person that's going to be your future wife. That's not a person that you need to, come together with. Stay away from them. Why? Because they ain't really living the life for Jesus, right? So you want somebody in your life that's going to actually help you live for Jesus. Somebody's going to encourage you in the Word of God. You don't want, the other person talking about, do you want to come over tonight? Nah, we don't want to come over tonight. Why? Because we're trying to live right. We're trying to do the right thing. We ain't trying to, be sexually immoral, right? You don't want to have a person like that because, trust me, they'll say, I've been in situations before in my life where, she was like, I believe in Jesus, I follow him. But then, in the DMs, it was a whole different story. Send me all types of pictures like, what is going on? I'm trying to do the right thing. I'm trying to, follow Jesus the best I can, right? But they ain't helping me. You tempting me right now. So right now, I need to stop talking to you because you keep on trying to sexualize the relationship. Beware if you're dating of the people trying to sexualize the relationship, especially if you're a Christian trying to follow Jesus, because if you know what he says, you have to wait till you get married in order to do that. But don't get caught up. Don't get sidetracked. Don't let nobody manipulate you, because if people manipulating you, then what you're going to do. So you got to be smart with that. So you got to make sure, that you're not with anybody that's trying to lead you down the wrong path, right? Especially if you're really trying to live saved. Now, if you ain't really trying to live for Jesus, then, that's a different story. But if you're actually trying to live right and do the right thing, you need to be smart and use wisdom and make sure you're not around anybody that's going to try to get you off course or get you to go a different direction than what the Lord wants you to go. Like I said, don't get caught up, in all of that. So be very careful of the people that you allow into your personal space, right? Because your space is valuable, right? Don't let anybody lessen the value of your space. Don't allow anybody to lessen the value of you seeking out, for your significant other. Because if we've been honest, as Christians, as believers, if we're dating to get married. We're not just dating so that we can just, hang out with each other and gaze into each other's eyes. That's cute. That's cool. But no, we dating for purpose. We're dating because we're trying to come together at some point, right? So in the talking stages, be very careful. Don't skip any steps. But in the talking stages, you must be very careful when you're selecting the person, because once you select them, you know that you're going to move towards marriage eventually one day. No, you shouldn't rush it. No, I'm not saying speed up the process. I'm saying take your time, but the end goal got to be marriage. If you're with a man and you ask him, hey, so what's your intentions? And he ain't talking about marriage, then that ain't the one for you. And fellas, if you talk to a lady and her intention is not marriage, then as a Christian, you might as well stop talking, because y'all on a different path, right? You guys have to be on the same page. Because as Christians, again, we date for marriage. If you look in the Bible, there's nothing in the Bible that really talks about, boyfriend and girlfriend and all of that, right? I know it was different times back then, but it really was about marriage. That's the goal. So don't be out there just wasting time, and don't be wasting people's time either, because sometimes you can meet somebody and get to talking to them, and you're just wasting all their time. You know good and well that you don't got no good intentions, but you're just wasting their time. Again, once you realize that they serious and they really want that, then you should respect it and get out of the way if that's not what you want, right? Don't waste nobody's time if you ain't really trying to be on that. If you out here trying to be reckless and do a bunch of crazy stuff, don't do that. Be straight up with the person. Get out of their way so they can find the right person for them. Because as long as they talking to you and you ain't got no good intentions, you ain't about nothing, you're just prolonging the time for them to get to the person that God has for them, right? So again, get out of the way if you're going to be a hindrance.